Hey friends, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish. Today we're going to try something interesting. So I have a book that is now out and available called The City of Arches. You can find a link to a huge preview. It's like a 30-some page preview of City of Arches in the show notes on the Sly Flourish City of Arches bookstore webpage, so you can check it out without necessarily having to buy it, but you can also buy it on the store. You can pick up the City of Arches digital package, which includes the book in PDF with a backgroundless version of the PDF that makes it a little bit more printer friendly. It includes a markdown version of City of Arches, and it includes an EPUB version of City of Arches. So you have one that formats well to sit on your phone. It also includes a digital assets pack with all of the art and maps that are in it, so you can put that into your favorite VTT. It is also available in a beautiful hardcover version. You can pick up the hardcover version on the store along with the digital version as well. A friend of mine got it and she was very complimentary of it. She really liked it a lot. And one of the things that she suggested, she said, I would really love to see you take one of the adventure seeds that exist. She was talking about all the adventure hooks that are in there. We have hundreds of adventure hooks in this book. And she said, it would be really neat to see you take one of the adventure hooks and turn it into an actual adventure. So today we're going to do exactly that. I have not picked one out already. I haven't done any homework on this yet. And we're going to actually take one of the adventure seeds and see what it takes to build it out into a playable adventure for our group. Now, I have done this kind of thing for some other stuff. Over on the Sly Flourish Patreon, we have, for hero tier subscribers of the Sly Flourish Patreon, I have been working on a thing known as the City of Arches Key of Worlds scenarios. So in the City of Arches itself, we will go down to the scenarios. And you can see an example of one of the scenarios in the sample if you want to see what they look like. So we have these campaign arcs, and the idea behind a campaign arc is giving you enough information to be able to build your own longer term campaign in the City of Arches. We have 3 of these campaign arcs, and they have descriptions of the overarching arc and what's going on, but then also like individual pieces that again are sort of like small adventure seeds. It's not a giant full campaign already filled out for you. The intention is that you fill it out. But one of the things I've been doing is I have been running the Key of Worlds campaign arc for my home group. And as I've been doing that, I've been building out those scenarios and then turning those into these things called the Key of Worlds adventure scenarios, available to patrons, available to hero tier patrons of Sly Flourish. I think we've done about 9 of them so far, and the plan is to have 15 of them by the end. I think I have drafts of 14 of the 15. There's only one of them that I don't have, but I will give the example of the first scenario, which is called the Scroll of a Crave. So in the City of Arches book, if you go down to, it's got a whole section about what's going on there, but then has like the first scenarios, like what are you actually doing? Like what's the plan? And the first scenario for it is this one. They call it the Scroll of Legend. We called it the Scroll of a Crave. The scenario we call the Scroll of a Crave. And you have this scenario about like what kind is going on. Oh, you're going into a crypt. You're picking up stuff. You're fighting skeletons, specters, shadows. A thug named Sheila and her bandit gang called the Red Teeth. Yada yada yada. So that's the quick like adventure scenario, right? Designed to take first level characters to second level. This is that whole thing kind of filled out. It's got, and you will note the structure of having, like a quick summary, secrets and clues, key NPCs, adventure hooks, random encounters, trap information, and then locations of it themselves, treasure, and further adventures. And all the scenarios kind of follow this. And the idea behind the scenario is that it still isn't a full adventure. The intention is still that you as a GM are going to take it and sort of, use that as a framework to build your own adventure for your own characters and sort of use the pieces of it to fill out that adventure. So that's why they're not called adventures. They're called scenarios. And the scenario is like, here's the setup. Here's all the material that you need. And from this material, you can then build your adventure. So very much like a published version of the 8 Steps of Return, although it doesn't have things like the characters and whatnot. So this is an example of taking one of those sections and turning it into a larger thing. And we have, again, there's about 10 of them that are published now. And I'm going to have about 5 more published, certainly by the end of the year, for hero tier subscribers of Patreon, of the Sly Flourish Patreon. But that's today. So those are a little bit more polished, right? I spend more time on them. I go through iterations of edits. I send them out to patrons and then get feedback and change them and stuff like that. And then I run them myself, and then I change it based on the feedback from my own playthrough of those scenarios. But when you are preparing an adventure for yourself, you don't need to go through that same, you don't have to have a document like this at the end of it, right? The intention isn't that you're building a publishable thing. The intention is that you have the notes that you need to be able to run the session for you and your group. not a published product that you're trying to, expand upon. And I think that that's a very subtle and misunderstood difference for new GMs who read published adventures and think, that's what a published adventure is going to be like. The D&D 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide did a good job of saying, hey, it doesn't have to look like that. In fact, your notes can look more like this. And it offered some notes. I thought the notes were a little brief, but they kind of grew on me the more I looked at them. Of like, well, at least what they're showing is you don't need a lot of stuff, and it doesn't have to be heavily polished for your own group because it's just you. Your notes only serve you. You're not publishing them to everybody else. So when we go through the process today of taking one of the scenarios and building an adventure for it, we're not going to be building a big published thing. Instead, what we're going to be doing is building it like notes for running our own game, right? Running a game that we're going to run at home. So I have not picked one out, and we have a lot of different places where we could run these adventures. They could be run directly from many of the locations at the surface level of the City of Arches, the lower reaches, the Cliffs of the Dead, the Endless Warrens, the Sunken Revia, the Vaults of the Nameless King, the Borderlands, and there's 3 different sections of the Borderlands, and the Worlds Beyond the Arches. I'm probably not going to build another scenario out of the campaign guides because I've already done one for Key Worlds. So we're going to pick like a one-shot one. The idea is that we want to have enough material to be able to run, somewhere between 1 to 3 sessions, right? It's not a big campaign arc. It's just an adventure. But the adventure might take somewhere between 1 to 3 sessions. So I'm going to roll randomly to kind of pick which one of the locations that we are going to have. So I'm going to go to the Sly Flourish dice roller. And let's see. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, perfect. 10. Boom. 9. So we're going to go to the Borderlands, and we're going to go specifically to the Deadlands. So we're going to pick a scenario from the Deadlands. This is good. I like this. So now the Deadlands has a bunch of different locations. This is why you can see how many different places. So I think we're about 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at that. Another 10. All right. So we'll clear the history and we'll roll another D10. Bang. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oasis of Mother's Tears is the location. So now we're going to go to Oasis of Mother's Tears, right? And we've got this section here. I'm actually going to drop over. So I have the City of Arches book over here on my other window, and I'm going to switch over to Obsidian. So we have the whole book in Markdown. So I'm actually going to, let's see, we're going to go, in my talk show notes, I have a Let's Build an Adventure with the City of Arches. But I'm also going to go to my resources, and I'm going to go to City of Arches, and I have all of it here. Let's see, we're going to sort by file name so I get the chapters in the right order. We are going to the Deadlands and Oasis of Mother's Tears. There we go. So I'm going to grab, because it's all nice markdown, I'm going to grab that whole section and I'm going to drop it into my notes. And that way we've got the original notes of the Oasis of Mother's Tears. Again, the markdown version of City of Arches is available along with the digital package of City of Arches. So it makes it very easy to be able to grab the text and throw it right into your notes. And we are going to build an adventure from this. So what are the things that we need in order to build an adventure? So let's have a quick look. So Oasis of Mother's Tears, a singular oasis in the waste of the Deadlands, the towering form of a weeping mother is one of the few signs of life in a realm of death. That's grim. Jeez, Mike. Grim. Along the southern edge of the Deadlands stands a large formation of natural rock marred by numerous cracks. Underground springs in the area force water up to the rock, from which streams of fresh water flow to fill a great pool. The nomadic clans known as the Deadland Shadows refer to this rocky spire as the mother for her life-giving waters, and call the pool and the thriving village that has grown alongside it the Oasis of Mother's Tears. Clan folk use the oasis as a place of refuge on their journeys across the desert and protect the site from wandering monsters and bandit raids. Family farmers and hunters make up most of the folk who dwell permanently in the village, in addition to a handful of merchants ready to serve adventurers who come to the oasis during expeditions across the Deadlands. A former goblin adventurer named Riley Gustborn has established an adventurer's refuge here, renting large tents whose fine amenities feel out of place in the setting. Riley is also the best source for tales of lost treasures rumored to be hidden in the many caverns that open up beneath the oasis. Adventure Hook. A corruption has taken root in the underground streams feeding the mother. Shortly after, an adventurer named Gulak Sandraider delved into the underground caverns beneath the oasis. Riley Gustborn is anxious for other adventurers to follow Gulak's trail, find the source of the corruption, and end it. Characters who do so discover that an archway in the caverns connects to a poisoned world called Uvaris and has been opened. A venomous blade carried by Gulak was secretly the key to the arch, which now poisons the water and fills the caverns with gray oozes, ochre jellies, and poisoned, corrupted grimlocks. So that's fun. I think so that's the adventure hook, right? And the idea is, okay, we're going to take that adventure hook and we're going to build it out into something that we could actually run for our group. That's our plan today. So the one thing we need to figure out is, okay, we got to figure out what are all the things we want to fill out. So I'm going to go with, as you can imagine, the 8 steps of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. One thing in the book itself, we describe pretty early on, like, you know, the adventure hooks and game prep, right, on page 6 of the book, talks about the expectations of how to build out these adventures. And I think there's even a little section that talks about the 8 steps of, you know, adventure hooks everywhere is here. There's one that even discusses the 8 steps here, designed for lazy game masters. So we have a section of the book right here that talks about like what it takes to build an adventure in the City of Arches. And also there's a whole pile of random tables at the end of the book to help you get quests, NPCs, fill in details, find all sorts of stuff. This one actually has some pretty good specifics. So I don't know that we're going to need too many random tables to build out the rest of it, but I think it will work. So we have strong start, we have scenes. We don't know who the characters are, right? I'm building this agnostic from the characters. So I don't have a section on the characters themselves. We have scenes. We're going to have secrets and clues. We're going to have NPCs, monsters, treasure. What am I missing? That's only 6, and there's 7. Strong start, scenes, secrets and clues, NPCs, monsters, and treasure. Right? So we're only using 7 of the 8 steps, mainly because we do not have a character. We don't have any list of the characters for this. So what is the strong start? So an easy, and so to begin with, we should ask ourselves, like, okay, based on this, like, what's the right level for this? I'll tell you what because I'd kind of like this to be a useful thing that maybe you might actually want to run with. And my favorite level for 5e is 3rd level. I love 3rd level. So I think we're going to focus on third level characters. They just got their subclasses. They are just meaty enough. It's really good for one-shots. 3rd level is a fantastic adventure for one-shots. They're not super complicated, but they're just complicated enough to be really interesting because you added subclasses to them. They are powerful enough to be able to handle a lot, but also not so super strong that you need to like really dial up the difficulty. So I really like 3rd level. We will assume 5. Build for 5 3rd level characters. Real quick, because I know that it's going to be 5 3rd level characters, I can already set up a lazy encounter benchmark, right? And the lazy encounter benchmark is, 5 times 3 is 15, divided by 4 is about 4. So a lazy encounter benchmark is about 4. That means they can generally handle about 4 CRs worth of monsters. 4 is really at the point where the battles are going to be deadly. If they're facing 4 challenge ratings worth of monsters, they are getting to the point where it's going to be pretty dangerous. The max CR for any one monster is 3, right? That, if you want to know more about the lazy encounter benchmark, Google lazy encounter benchmark, you'll find out all about it. But it's a quick way to give you an idea of like what you should have. So, okay, so what's the strong start? So one thing that could make sense, an easy one, is we could have some gray oozes. So one thing we can ask ourselves is, so what version do we want to run this for? I think I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be like one of the cool crowd. I don't know. I doubt this is actually part of the cool crowd, but we're going to go with D&D 2024. We're going to build it out using D&D 2024, which means I can use D&D Beyond. And we are going to look up gray ooze. I love gray oozes. Gray oozes are a really fun monster. They are, pretty straightforward. Only CR 1/2. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have several gray oozes come out of the well and attack nearby folk. So our strong start is immediately right off the bat. They're like, people are hanging out doing their regular business. Maybe there's several wells. So we'll say a nearby well, because they have farms and things like that. So there could be irrigation ditches, and somebody could run and go, quick, something horrible is coming with the irrigation ditch. And they come out and find out. So we have our strong start. That's really solid. Then our scenes, the first scene is fighting the gray oozes, or, dealing with the gray oozes. Talking, you could say like investigating the well. We could have talking to Riley. Is it Gulak? Yeah, Riley. Exploring the caverns. We'll call them the Grim Caverns. Poisoned caverns, right? They're poisoned. I can't spell poisoned. Then we are going to deal with the corruption, close the gate, close the arch. I think that's really the same thing, right? The dealing with the corruption is really the same thing. And that's the end of the adventure, right? And then hurrah. So secrets and clues, I think it's still important to have secrets and clues. And a fun thing could be adding some other lore, like a dark god. I always love dark gods. It could be fun to have that. So, but some of the secrets and clues we can take right out of the stuff above, right? So we could say the mother, a source for natural underground water and the desolation of the Deadlands. Farmers and merchants, caravans and merchants use the oasis as a stopover for hundreds of years. Some believe there are several large caverns and numerous tunnels beneath the rock, beneath the oasis. Some believe there is an altar and an archway beneath, deep in the caverns. An altar, we could say a shrine, filled with glorious treasure deep in the caverns. Some whisper of twisted humanoids and other monstrosities that call the caverns home, but these monstrosities rarely come to the surface. I like the one about the world, right? What's the poison? Uvaris, right? The poisoned abyssal realm of Uvaris is ruled over by a demon prince known as what? So that here we can sort of like make stuff up, right? I don't think, we'll take a look in the City of Arches, because we have like a legendary figures, but I don't think any of the legendary figures work. We have Carigulon the Dead Fang, the Black Hand, Prince Azun, one of the lower 12. So I could add one of the lower 12. I think I actually have. So here's another one. It's actually this, at the time of this recording, it's probably now available if you're watching this recording. I am putting out another supplement on the Sly Flourish Patreon for Hero Tier subscribers called The Lower 12. And The Lower 12 is a 2-page supplement of the gods of the Lower 12, who are like dark gods that have been forgotten. And I can actually use one of these guys. So we have Sister Mevis, who's serpent's death, poison, thievery, and assassination. That's a pretty good one. But I think there's another one that's like all corruption. Lord Hallex. Yeah, Gellus Grimtouch. Corrupted fungus nature, dead tree growing through the eyes of a skull. I think Gellus Grimtouch is a pretty good, known as the plague. So demon prince known as the plague bringer, sometimes known as one of the lower 12, called Gellus Grimtouch. Grimtouch is worshipped by unholy druids who believe death and rot are the default nature for all things, the ideal nature of all things. That's fun. Any other secrets and clues? Yeah, so the secret, which is more like the quest, is that Gulak Sandrunner into the lower caverns carrying a magical dagger. He's been gone 2 weeks. 2 weeks? How long do we want to say? 3 days? We'll do 3 days. That way he could survive without any water. He's been gone 3 days, and since then, people have said they've been getting sick from the well water, and plants are starting to look diseased. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do we want 2 more secrets? 2 more things the characters could discover. What else could they find? Gulak dagger, known as the Thorn of, and we'll pick another one. Thorn of the Dead Forest is a holy dagger, an unholy dagger for the druids of the Plaguebringer. It also serves as a key to the archway to Uvaris. One last secret. What's the last thing that they could learn here that we think would be a fun angle? How about some druids of the Dead Forest have been seen lurking around Mother's Tears, but disappear when followed. So there we go. So I got my secrets and clues. We're gonna drop past location for a moment, and we're gonna have some NPCs, and I think we want to have like 3 main NPCs. We've got Gulak Sandrunner. Whoops. Who is going to be who's Gulak? So in city we will use the City of Arches as much as we can. We're gonna go to our random tables in the City of Arches. We got our adventure generators. And we are going to roll a pair of 20-sided dice. Bang, bang. 16 and 9. 16 is a wise. Doesn't sound very wise. Like Sandrunner is a wise celestial. That kind of changes things a little bit. First of all, Gulak doesn't sound like a celestial name. We're gonna roll again. I don't want to change the name because that was the name I used. 2. An elf. It still doesn't sound like. We'll go with the dwarf, right? A wise dwarf. Is he that wise, though? I know I said wise, but I don't think that really works, because the wise guy doesn't take the unholy dagger down into the thing to go get treasure. I think it's more fun that he's not wise. 6. Did I roll wise again? No, 15 this time. Let's see what 15 is. Sly. There we go. A sly. I like that one. A sly dwarf. He's probably probably not a veteran, maybe a scout, who took the dagger. He's probably wise now. He learned from his mistakes. He took the dagger, and the dagger is known as Thorn of the Dead Forest, into the caverns beneath the Mother. So that's Gulak. Actually, the first NPC we're going to introduce is our quest NPC. And our quest NPC is Riley Gusborn. Riley is I think we have a thing, goblin adventurer, and proprietor of the Adventurers Guild in I don't know if it's really a guild, the Adventurers Rest in the Mother. It probably calls it the Mother's Shadow, proprietor of the Mother's Shadow. The Mother's Embrace, the Adventurers Camp at the Oasis. So we got that. And then I'm going to add a third, which is going to be a druid. We're going to have a druid of the druid of the Plaguebringer. So we have a villain. Let's roll, let's see what clear, and we'll roll 12, 16, 12. Let's see, a 16 is a fairy folk. I like that. 12, greedy. So we need a name, druid of the Plaguebringer. And we'll probably use the cult fanatic. We'll do this the other way. We could use the priest. I think we'll use the priest stat block instead of the cult fanatic stat block. And what is their name? We're going to go to my adventure generator to get a name. Earthseeker. Ava. And then instead of Earthseeker, what is Earth? Of the Gray Earth. Greedy fairy folk, druid priest of the Plaguebringer. So that's good. We've got some NPCs. Now we will jump to monsters. So this is 3rd level. We know generally monsters should be somewhere between CR whatever, 1/4. So we're going to have cultists, of course. Cultists of the Plaguebringer. We have a priest of the Plaguebringer. We're going to have gray oozes. We know we have those. Instead of the cultists, we could have grimlocks, right? Are there multiple kinds of grimlocks in the... Let's see. I like grimlocks a lot. So I think there's just the one kind of grimlock because it's CR 1/4, but that'll work well for a cultist. Oh, and they do psychic damage. We could switch the psychic to poison damage. What else did they say is down there? Gray oozes, ochre jellies. So we'll probably have ochre. ochre jellies. And one thing we can do is, instead of making this just a generic list, we'll make it a random list. And we probably want to have about 6 possible encounters here. It's max 3 means they could face an ogre. So we could have a Grimlock ogre. One thing I like to do is, like, Grimlocks being these sort of, like, subterranean dwellers. You can sort of reskin other monsters into them. You can have, Grimlock veterans, and you can have Grimlock scouts, and you can have stuff like that. So I think, having Grimlocks of the Plaguebringer, Grimlock ogre plus Grimlocks is another one. The Priest of the Plaguebringer is really a separate thing. I don't even think I really need to list it because I already have it listed above. So that's 4 kinds of monsters. I'd like to have 2 more. So underground dwellers. So what are some other... So we'll go into the monster manual here. Ye brand new and shiny D&D 2024 monster manual. And they have... Where's all their lists? We'll do monsters by habitat. Take a look at that. And we will look at Underdark monsters. And we will poke through this list. So we have gas spores. Those are not bad, right? A gas spore fungus and myconids are another one. Gas spores and myconids. Let's see. We could have like giant poison toads. Those are always fun. They're not poisonous. Oh, they do acid. Well, they do acid because they swallowed you. That's not a bad one. The giant toads are CR. Man, this pop-up is obnoxious. Giant toads are CR1. So they could do like 3 of those. And then you don't always want to run, especially what I'm finding with D&D 2024, is when you run close to deadly, it really is deadly. So, feel free to run at half the LEB when you're doing it. 2 toads is fine. Ogre zombie. We could have ogre zombie that died from poison. That's kind of fun. We could have ogre zombie instead of a Grimlock ogre. We could have an ogre zombie plus Grimlocks. That feels good to me, right? I think you don't need a whole lot because, again, we're not doing a massive thing here. So then treasure. Okay, so treasure. I like to just use a treasure generator. I actually have. I don't know if I've released this yet to patrons, but I actually have a D&D 2024 treasure generator. And since we're doing D&D 2024 stuff, we will do that. I am not giving away Enspelled stuff. This is actually pretty good. So we'll drop the treasure right in there. We'll get rid of the Enspelled staff. And a Cloak of Protection is fine. But then we're also going to include the dagger, right? The dagger, so the Plaguebringer, or what was it called? The Thorn of the Dead Forest, which is a +1 dagger that casts what? Entangle? We could give it 2 abilities, right? Once per day, add 3d6 poison. 3d6? That's a lot. 2d6 poison onto its next attack. Once per day, add 2d6 poison. Once per day as an action, as a bonus action. Add 2d6 poison onto its next successful attack, right? So one time, on one hit, you get to do another 2d6 poison damage and poison the target. And we'll say it's a DC 14 con save. And there's like proper ways to write this. I don't know the proper way right now. This is enough. I get what it does. I get how to explain it. So I don't need anything more. I think I can give it another ability. I think Entangle is not so bad. Entangle is a spell. It is 1st level. Right. So I think it can create, let's see. So once per day, you can use an action to have it cast Entangle. Right. So that is a fun, powerful item, right? That is also a key to this realm. So I've got all of the steps I need. The last thing that I want is location. I've been putting off the location itself. So we are actually going to go over to another. I know I'm pitching all my stuff. Another tool for patrons of Sly Flourish is the Dyson commercially licensed map gallery. This is a map gallery. It is downloadable and self-hostable to your own machine that includes, I think, about 600 maps to choose from, and I use it all the time to pick out awesome maps for the games that I'm going to run. And this is a perfect example of like what you're going to have. And right away, look at this. I've actually used this map before, and I like it. There's a lot of non-cavey stuff here, but I think it could still work. Like one of the tricks, especially here's your lazy GM trick for you. I mean, you're getting packed with lazy GM tricks today, but one of the real lazy GM tricks that I follow is pick the first one that works. So instead of hey, there's 600 maps, I should go through all 600 and find the perfect map. Instead, say, which is the first map that covers what I need? And when you got it, you're done. Grab it and you're off to the races. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. Can I drop it? Look at that. I can drop the map right into my notes. Thanks, Obsidian. So I have the map in here. What I can't do is annotate it. So I am instead going to just create a list of features for each of these chambers. I'm going to sort of mentally connect which room has which chamber. So they're going to, I have this little entryway to the right. I could instead have a lower well. So I guess one question is could we have a couple of different ways to get in here, right? That might be kind of fun. So they could go down the well that's got the corruption of the corruption of the well that where the gray oozes came from, but they could also go down through the cracks that are in the Mother's Tears itself. And that could come from sort of a different path. That way there's sort of an option right off the bat. So we'll have, this chamber right here will be the entryway from the irrigation well. And that's that big central well. And it's got a statue half melted of the Plaguebringer, who is known as what? We have a secret clue in here somewhere. Scrim Touch. So they could learn stuff, they could learn stuff right off the bat by finding the statue. Also looks like a great place to get attacked. So that's one entry. Then I think just south of that, we could have ancient crypts of priests. We'll call them ancient Plaguebringer crypts. So there's another entry. The two entrances are really close to one another, but the problem is there's not that many natural passages in here. It's actually mostly not natural. So they can come in this way. So that covers one room. Then there's this curtained area around here. So we could have a Grimlock hovels. That's that sort of area right southeast of the lake. Then we could have a Grimlock feasting hall. Then an altar, fresh altar to the Plaguebringer. And that's that northernmost chamber. So I think that covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that covers all of the natural chambers. So then I think we're going to start at the bottom and work my way up, because I think that uppermost chamber is where the archway is. So south, we have that the hallway with a raised platform with 4 altar-looking things on it. We could have shrines of 4 of the lower 12. That would mean that we would want to have that supplement for the other members of the lower 12, so we have that handy. Then that south chamber looks like a big, crazy altar. That could be the great shrine of the Plaguebringer, right? Then we have to the north, we have that long pillared hall with the little segments off to the side. What would that be? What had that been, and what would it be? We'll call it ruined, because I think that is there, and it could have statues and murals of dead worlds, because I think the Plaguebringer cult likes to note that other worlds have been completely destroyed by Gallus Grimtouch. I think that works. Then we are going to have a treasury of the Plaguebringers. That's that middle chamber there. And then we have the Arch of the name of that world. What's that world called? Uvaris. And that's that northernmost chamber. There's other features in this room, though. There's these weird, those paintings on the walls. I mean, I wouldn't get that the Plaguebringer would be, we could have bodies bound bodies, root bound bodies. So like other people have come to this chamber and roots are growing out of the walls, and there's like dead people in the roots that have been kind of impaled there as sacrifices to this thing. And the archway is now open and needs to be closed using the dagger. And you can decide one like MacGuffin, one little tricky bit that we can use here is that we can move the dagger anywhere in the area. So depending on how fast we want the adventure to go, we can make it easier for the characters to get a hold of the dagger. It's a moving MacGuffin. I'm a big believer in moving MacGuffins. And a moving MacGuffin is essentially, hey, whatever the thing is that you need in order to accomplish this quest, if it's mobile, the GM now has the ability to change the pacing of the game by saying like, yeah, you found it, or no, you have to keep going. That is a very like non-OSR sort of approach, right? It's definitely like you have your hand on how things are going to go. But I also believe that sometimes pacing is important. And if you wanted to run this as a single session, you want to move that dagger. You could, of course, roll randomly to decide where it is, right? You can always change your mind. And instead of deciding where to put it, you could roll randomly and where to put it, which I think is the difference between sort of the stochastic nature of OSR style adventures and the more sort of modern take of, GMs having their hands more on the story. I don't believe in either one over the other. I think both approaches can work, but I know that myself as a GM, what I like is to be able to have some hand on the pacing. And one way to keep your hand on the pacing, to have some control of the pacing, is knowing that I can move that dagger wherever I want, so that the characters could, they still need to close the gateway. And that's really like the main goal, right? And I think we want to move right at the top. We want to make clear the goal. Find the poisoned dagger and use it to close the archway to Uvaris, right? I want to make that really crystal clear. What's the goal? Find the poison dagger in the poison caverns. What do we call it? The plague bringer. What was the dagger? The thorn of the dead forest in the poison caverns, and use it to close the archway to Uvaris. Like that's the goal, right? So we want to have that crystal clear. So now, how do we feel about it, right? So hopefully you kind of saw the process where I had this, I had this adventure hook, and I took the adventure hook. I got some ideas about like who they would be for, that we're going to have it for third, the characters are, 5 third level characters. I have my strong start. I have my scenes. I have my secrets and clues. I have a location. I've got location descriptions for a lot of the places in here. I've got NPCs that they can meet. I've got monsters that they can fight. I've got treasure that they can discover. And I put it together in, about, I don't think it took a full hour, right? Not quite a full hour for me to put together the entire adventure. But that is really, what you saw is the process that I follow. And it's pretty much the process that I follow for making adventures for all the games that I run. It's, you can watch me do it on my lazy RPG prep shows, but also when I'm running my home games, I go through a very similar process. Obviously, the main difference is I know who the characters are. And so depending on what the characters are, where they started, what they're going for, my notes might change a little bit. But this is a pretty good example of it. And hopefully what that gives you is, if you are looking at The City of Arches, and you should, it's a really, really awesome book, you can use a process like that, or a process of your own. That gives you an idea of how I do it. That doesn't mean that's how you do it. You might have an entirely different process, but that is one way to take an adventure hook and turn it into a bunch of notes that you have ready to run a session. I feel very confident that I could run this session and it would be great fun. As a one-shot game, maybe 1 or 2 sessions. I could probably get it to 1 if I move the MacGuffin around, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. Friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed that little adventure that we put together. And of course, you can pick up The City of Arches on the Sly Flourish bookstore. There's a link down in the show notes. There is a big preview available, a 42-page sample preview of the book. So if you want to check it out, you want to see if it's the kind of book for you, no reason. It's, easily, it's just one click to go get it. And you can pick up the book in both hardcover and digital, the digital version including the PDF, a background list version of the PDF, a markdown version of the text, and an EPUB version, along with all of the assets that you can use in your virtual tabletop of choice. It's a really good deal. It's a product I worked on really hard for like a couple of years. I love it. I've been running campaigns in it. I'm very proud of it. And I think you will really enjoy it as well. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and get out there and play an RPG.